CMSportsNet presents Sports Talk at Island Green.
Go ahead. Let's roll.
We're
live.
Okay. We're live.
Sports Talk at Island Green, and sitting in is the host. He's actually over here. His name is John Lowe. I'm going to do my best to be the co-host here. We're filling in for Avery Newport. And John, welcome to the Island Green. And also, we can go right into the fact that welcome back to the where you started with in terms of coaching wrestling. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody basically who you are, what you're doing, and how you got to where you are right now.
Okay, so as he said, I'm John Lowe. I am the women's wrestling coach at McDaniel College. After a 21-year hiatus, I was the men's coach from 1994 to 2003. Part-time job at the time, and when my sons got born, I realized something had to give. There was a brand new high school opening up across town, Winters Mill. It was a place we lived in that district, so I could teach and coach my sons. So I went ahead and moved over, and then fast forward 20 years later, the boys are grown. Coached both boys and girls programs at Winters Mill and got them started. And then suddenly they started a new program at McDaniel. Opportunity to jump in and take that full time. And I retired from teaching and have moved right in and hit the ground running.
I mean, you coached the boys team at the co-ed team at Winters Mill, obviously state championships there. What got you to want to get? You'd left it and still in the school teaching, and I know you were helping work tournaments and stayed active with the program, involved with the program. What got you to get back into it and get over to the girls' side, which obviously had a lot of success the last couple of years?
Well, the interesting thing, did about 17, 18 seasons, and then that wore out a little bit, and we had some success, and once the family had graduated and moved on, I decided to try something new, and I was going to officiate. So I started doing some reffing, did some high school, and I had some contacts that kind of fast-tracked me. My first reffing gig was the NC State Wolfpack Open, so a little bit of pressure there.
No pressure.
I'm not going to kid anybody. I was okay, but I wasn't that level yet. They were kind of bringing me up, and I was really enjoying it. And then the guy that I turned the program over to, Eric Mazzeros, contacted me and said, hey, they just started girls wrestling. Can you please unretire? I can't be a first-year head coach and then try to start all these programs together. And I said, sure, and I was still in the building. So the numbers at first were low. I could kind of come and go as I please here and there. And then COVID hit, which was a really weird year.
Yep.
Carroll County was the only county that kept going with sports. And so I was able to teach new wrestlers how to wrestle, and no parents and no crowds and nothing slowing you down. So that made it kind of easy. And then the third year, our numbers kind of exploded. We had 16 come out, and I was still reffing. And what I found was that I couldn't do both very well. I started missing a few calls. A few of the athletes underperformed, and I think that I probably could have coached them up a little bit better. And I thought instead of half-arsing two things, I'm going to whole arse one thing. And I was always a better coach than a ref.
Yep.
So the next year we had 30 athletes on the girls' team, and we had to roll out our own mats in our own spot. And I kind of really gave me a nice shot in the arm, kind of a jump started me back into coaching again and loving it for the pure teaching of the sport, and wouldn't go back for the world.
And we actually have some high school coaches who are going to come on a little bit later in the show, and you're going to talk to them. But before we get to that, obviously, like you mentioned, Winters Mill girls had some success. You had state place winners, and then the McDaniel job sort of becomes a thing too. It's announced that McDaniel's going to have women's wrestling for the first time, sort of being one of the pioneers in terms of that regard. What interested you about that, going back to where you started coaching the college ranks and now obviously taking the program over?
I really enjoy starting things up because I think you have to be a promoter, and I really kind of credit a negative thing for making me that way. I was the last coach that Salisbury State University had ever, and as you may recall, there were a number of programs across the country that dropped for a number of reasons. They cited Title IX proportionality. Sometimes they cited monetary issues. But really what I realized is that if you're not relevant on campus, you're too easy to drop.
Yeah.
And so I was always try to be a showman, try to be a promoter, try to get the crowd into it, try to get kids involved in their high schools more, and become a stronger member of the community. And so when you're starting things up, that's kind of how you reach out. That's kind of what I'm doing now. They hired me in September, but it was after the recruiting cycle. So we only had a small number of girls, young ladies who had been brought in by Mason Gretzis, the men's coach, who was doing his best to recruit for 2 teams.
Right.
I have actually had to go on campus and find people that were willing to do that, and we're able to fill a lineup, but I have to teach a lot of people how to wrestle this year. So in combination with that, doing a lot of recruiting to bring in, hardened wrestlers across the state and even out of state.
Well, that's some similarities there, right? Because you did that at Winters Mill as well. There were times when you were pulling kids out of the hallways and getting them to wrestle, turn them into some state champions along the way. Are you feel some similarities from one to the other?
100%. And I'm sure the guys that we're going to talk to later can talk about that. But, you bribe, you threaten, you cajole, whatever you can do to get them out. And the last 2 that I got out, I saw shooting baskets in Old Gill, and they're really small, and we have to fill weight classes. All the way up and down, and we didn't have anybody in the first 2 weight classes, and I watched them for a little bit, and I thought, look, if I stay here much longer, I'm going to be really creepy. I'm going to go in. Hey, how are you? Would you like to come out for our wrestling team? It's brand new. You'll make history. And they went for it, and they got on the mat for the first time this weekend and did pretty well for newbies. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, you led me into the next question. I was going to ask you how it's gone so far in terms of it's the inaugural season, and it's the inaugural few weeks of the season, the inaugural team, I should say. How have you seen this group of girls, young women, start to get into the sport that some of them are learning for the first time?
Well, it's very interesting because college women's rules are freestyle, which is the Olympic style. So even our seasoned veterans might not be experienced in freestyle. We have a state champion from Westminster, Taylor Mead. She had very little experience with freestyle. So there's a learning curve for everybody to a certain extent. With the new girls, in some ways, they don't have to break some of the old folk style habits. But what you find, though, is that the people that have had experience in freestyle are kind of elite. These are the kids that are training to be on national teams and world teams. And so we actually had a young lady in her very first match wrestle a national champion.
Wow.
And there was some interesting techniques.
Lessons were learned.
Yes.
Lessons were learned. Yeah, and just so that's how this is going to go. Initially for this program, because learning as really, learning as you're going. You've already started, and you're going to have some kids along the way. Learn these lessons, and hopefully for the better of the, in terms of the future of the program, but the future of this season too. So you were there on the high school side with the girls wrestling at Winters Mill, girls wrestling in general. How cool is it to see that facet of this sport, the sport you love so much, take off, and not just take off and explode, especially in Carroll County?
It has exploded. It's exploding so much that almost so many college programs are coming open that they're having trouble filling lineups. And in the state, I'm going to give some credit to Michael Duffy, my former boss. He really promoted it here in Carroll County, and he really promoted it statewide. And there are numerous teams now that have full lineups. We're actually going to talk to 2 guys that did very well filling their lineups last year, and had some success. And just watching it happen, it's kind of like eye-popping. There are over 70 programs at the Division III level. And something I saw when we went to the East Stroudsburg Open, there are only 4 Division I programs right now that have programs.
Okay.
There are tons that have club programs.
Right.
And I saw some national champion high school wrestlers and Olympic trial high school wrestlers wrestling for clubs. For example, Lehigh, Oklahoma State. There are a lot of clubs out there that are waiting for this to become an official NCAA sport instead of just an emerging status sport. And they're going to hit the ground flying.
Right.
They're not even going to hit the ground. Those athletes are ready to go right now. They just need a direction.
Yeah, and then you led me into what I was going to ask next, and now that you're at the college level and the girls wrestling, women's wrestling is really taking off. Do you see it going in the same? It sounds like the answer is already yes. You see it going in the same direction that high school girls wrestling has gone, not just taking off, but taking off and really going, in leaps and bounds to keep up with co-ed.
I think a lot of these girls realize that they're in a position now to make history. They're doing things that no one else has done. And they've seen the NCAA embrace them. They've seen USA Wrestling embrace them with this whole freestyle. And they realize that they have opportunities to soar very quickly. For instance, when we go to nationals, yes, we're going to wrestle the Frostburgs, and we're going to wrestle the Yorks and the Delaware Valleys, but we're also going to wrestle Iowa, So we're going to be in with the same Division I, Division II, Division III,
Yeah.
and the opportunity to wrestle. And they're Olympians on that team. So they're people that, these girls, if they were wrestlers, they maybe got somebody to sign their shoes for them at a summer camp, and now they're going to be wrestling against them in a tournament. That's kind of a cool thing. So
cool and frightening, I would think, but more cool for you than
cool
you're
for
not
me.
going
Maybe
to
scary for them.
What's it like to be back on the Hill? I mean, a place where you spend a lot of time wrestling. There's a lot of guys in Carroll County that wrestled with you and alongside you, and it's got to feel nice for you to be back to a familiar place that you know pretty well.
Every day is a good day. Like I just can't say it enough. I wish that I could have done this 30 years ago. The plus of just coming in and being on campus, seeing kids walking around. You go to lunch and you see some of your wrestlers, hey, you can tell if somebody's having a good day or a bad day, or they need some advice with their homework, or all kinds of things. And you become relevant to them in more than just a coaching situation. In the past, I was on campus for 2 hours. You can see them in a wrestling room and not know how they're feeling.
Sure.
And so, you become relevant also to the campus as a whole. For instance, they just asked some of us to do kind of like guest lecturing for some of the classes that they're doing. This is the kind of thing that I really, really wished I could have had before.
Right.
I had to wait a little bit, but I got it now, and I'm making the most of it.
And again, it's time, right? Like you said, you were there just for a little bit here and there and didn't have as much hold and maybe as you do now on campus with the office in the athletic department and being alongside Mason, who obviously was a very standout Carroll County wrestler, has done good things on the Hill with the men's team. Expectations for your team, again, like you talked about the breakdown of the team, the makeup of the team. Yes, you want to go out there and put what you've been practicing to use, but you're a pretty good judge of expectations and that sort of thing. What do you think this girls team in its first season can do when everything's working in the right direction and the Greens are at their best on the mat?
Everybody has got a different set of goals, and we try to get, like some of the new wrestlers, hey, your job's to score some points. If you can win a match, that's awesome, but let's try to put together some points. And York, they had pretty much seasoned veterans almost up and down the line. That was going to be a tough go. We only won a couple of matches. But we were wrestling, for example, Randolph College, which is down in Lynchburg. They're brand new this year, just like us. You got to like the similarities in situations like that. And you make sure that each young lady says, what are your goals? And wins and losses are not going to make you or break you. Wins will come down the line. But if you can set a goal, work towards it, achieve it, and move bit by bit, these are skills you can use in everything. So
there are some local wrestlers on the roster, and then fans of Carroll County wrestling will recognize a few names. Taylor Meade being one of them, the former state champion at Westminster High School. You've got a wrestler from Francis Scott Key. A couple. You can go ahead and give us the names of some of the ones people might recognize from if they've been to a last couple of county tournaments.
So yes, as you said, Taylor Meade, state champion from Westminster. She is the complete package. I believe her record right now is 12-3. She placed in the Millersville tournament third. She is a force to be reckoned with. She just about placed at East Stroudsburg as well.
Wow.
She's ready to go and ready to train hard, and I'm hoping to recruit a lot of workout partners for next year. Kira Cooper, who wrestled for Davey Blake, who we're going to talk to a little later. She is a ridiculously gifted athlete and just very competitive. Maria Samuel, who is from Randallstown, just up the road, 20 minutes, was a state place winner for Ernie Davidson 2 years ago. She has a lot of wins right now. And so these are the girls that are veterans, and they're the ones that are able to win right away. With our other ones, our goal is to develop them as athletes, teach them some technique, and if they get some wins before the end of the year, that's going to be awesome.
Sure. What's the toughest thing about getting a program off the ground? High school, you've got the resources there in the building, and you have what you have, right, in terms of the student body, Winters Mill. And same goes for McDaniel, but like you mentioned to me before we started the show, some of the girls on your roster right now just got started with the sport, and same could be said for Winters Mill. So maybe that's the answer, but what's one of the hardest things you've had and one of the challenges you had to face here so far that's maybe still ongoing as you're getting started here new?
Anytime you're creating a culture with people that are not used to the culture, this is a sport where you come out of practice with black eyes and bloody noses and chipped teeth and that kind of thing. It's learning to fight with rules. And for the people that have never done that before, we tell them, look, I expected to wrestle hurt. I never expected to wrestle injured. And you figuring out the difference between the two is really going to be part of this learning curve. Yeah. My son wrote recently. He's working on being a Green Beret. He's down in formerly Fort Benning, now called Fort Moore, and they did combat training hand-to-hand this week. And he mentioned that a lot of the guys that did not have wrestling backgrounds thought that they were going to die. And he says, no, this is what soreness feels like in combative training, like MMA or judo or wrestling.
Yeah.
And so part of that culture is big. And of course, getting word out to wrestlers across the state, hey, we're a program, we're viable, we want you to come here. So recruiting is also a challenge. Not only are we trying to make what we have into something, but we're trying to bring in stuff from the outside. And Mason Goretzis is helping enormously with that.
What's the most fun you've had so far? I know we're still early in the season, but most fun you've had so far as a women's wrestling coach at McDaniel College?
Watching these girls get after it. This is the match this weekend. The girls that had never, I should call them women, they're young ladies.
Yes.
They had never been on, had a singlet on, didn't know how to shake hands, didn't know where they were going. And you point and you're like, okay, I'm actually teaching this first day person how to wrestle. They're going up against a college seasoned athlete.
Yep.
And you watch them have fun, and you remind them to have fun out there. And some more fun I have is actually with Mason. I'm going to give him props now.
Yep.
He's kind of my boss, but there would be no women's wrestling program at McDaniel if not for him. He was the impetus for this. He pushed for it, and he and I, we have very different personalities, but we have one mind, and a lot of times we finish each other's sentences. And so in terms of the women's development, in terms of recruiting, in terms of where the program's going, we always seem to be on the same page, and that's fun. That's good to go to work with, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll mention Mason too. I mean, I covered him in high school, 2-time state champ, and then he's been doing great things at McDaniel, and he's always there for you if you need him to talk to one of his wrestlers or what have you. But I'm assuming that joining forces with him is a good thing for you, and it's going to be a good thing for the Green Terror going forward.
Yeah, it's the power of two on this one. We have, again, different personalities. He's kind of like the old curmudgeon, and I'm kind of the wild card out there. And between the two of us, we can hit both ends of mental training and physical training, and reach as many athletes as possible.
Yeah, well, you're certainly a wild card. I'll give you that. So I've prepped up John Lowe now. We are co-hosts here in the Sports Talk at Island Green. I think we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have the first of two of our high school wrestling coaches on. It's going to be Zach Blessing from Century and Davey Blake from Francis Scott Key. And then after that, I'll jump back in and we'll talk a little Ravens football with Coach Lowe. This is a big game tonight, I heard.
I believe a couple of brothers are about to get after it tonight.
Har Bowl 3, I think that's what it is.
Har Bowl 3.
I didn't make that up. That's just what I saw on the internet, so it must be true.
Works
then,
for me.
Right.
Works for me.
John Lowe, I'm Pat Stoetzer. We will be back in a few minutes. The Sports Talk at Island Green, live from Island Green in Westminster.
Welcome to Island Green, Westminster. The Pub and Grill offers a variety of food in a family-friendly atmosphere. Live music, private suites, miniature golf. Learn more at islandgreenwestminster.com. Island Green, Westminster.
I'm Danielle Inglesby, and I interned at the Community Media Center during my senior year at South Carroll High School. I was interested in the CMC because of the knowledge and experience that I would gain and to help narrow down my field for what I want to work in the future. During my internship, I learned how to operate graphics for New Blue for our sports productions and to edit various projects on Premiere. I recommend the Community Media Center for anyone interested in studio art because it definitely gave me an advantage for the future, and I learned a lot and had a ton of fun.
Hey there, I'm Pat Stoetzer.
And I'm Michael Duffy, inviting you to join us for The Score and more.
And each week we'll talk about high school sports in Carroll County. We'll share information about upcoming games, highlight coaches and athletes, and much more.
We'll even try to have a little fun along the way. Don't miss The Score and More podcast, presented by CMSportsNet.
The Score and More Sports podcast is available online at carrollmediacenter.org and on a variety of podcast channels.
Brought to you by Farmers and Merchants Bank.
Every Wednesday at CM Sportsnet, it's Game On. Tune in for a look at Carroll County sports scene, boys and girls soccer, high school football, and Carroll Link sports action. Hi, I'm Pat Stoetzer. Join me as we preview upcoming games, talk with the coaches, and bring you exclusive reports you won't see anywhere else. Plus, each week we'll unveil CM Sportsnet's Athlete of the Week. Don't miss CM Sportsnet's Game On, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. We've got you covered.
skill, dedication, leadership. Just a few of the things it takes to be named CMSportsNet's Athlete of the Week. Hi, I'm Pat Stoetzer. Each week, CMSportsNet recognizes an outstanding player for their contribution to their sport. Meet some of Carroll County student athletes and join us as we celebrate their performance, impact, and outstanding accomplishments.
CMSportsNet Athlete of the Week is brought to you by Barnes Bollinger Insurance and by Raising Cane's.
Okay, welcome back to Sports Talk at Island Green. We're live at Island Green in Westminster, Maryland. I'm John Lowe, filling in for Avery Newport tonight. And we've got wrestling on our minds, which is fine with me, being an old wrestling guy. Got a couple of wrestling coaches that we're going to talk to tonight. The first of which is Century head coach Zach Blessing. He's a 2014 grad of Winters Middle High School, where he wrestled. 2018 grad of McDaniel College. And a few years ago, he took over as the head coach at Century, and he has made some big news, gotten a lot of press and a lot of attention headed his way, and we're going to find out what his secret is and what his team looks like this year. So, Zach, welcome to Sports Talk.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you, man.
How's the season looking so far? Have you had about a week of practice in?
Yeah, about a week and a half, and sorry, I'm still getting used to this. But about a week and a half, we had certifications on Saturday, so that's always exciting, seeing where all the weights are going to be with the descent plan and whatnot. And we had a good week of practice last week. The schedule is really weird this year with just how late the calendar is. And Thanksgiving coming up already. First match next Thursday, so it's a short
First match
time.
next Thursday.
First play date is next Thursday for any public school teams. So
wow.
it's
Do you have somebody that day?
yeah, we have a tri-meet at Tuscarora with Catoctin.
Okay, all right. So I know that you had a lightweight that was pretty good last year. County finalist, county champ?
We had, so last year at, I believe it was 113, Braden Brassel was a sophomore, county champion last year, and ended up qualifying for states. He's looking around 120, 126 this year as a junior. He's looking pretty good in the preseason. So
Who else should we keep our eye on in the Century lineup?
So it's a very interesting group we have. Like I've told a lot of people, we have a lot of seniors, probably 7 or 8 in our starting lineup. Also, we have a lot of freshmen, sophomores, and juniors who will fight for time, be key backups, get some JV wins. So, upper weights, around 175, we have JT Ferguson.
Yep.
Blood round loser last year, 1-0 in the blood round at place. So he's looking to get on the podium this year / make some even more noise. We have our 190-pounder Dominic D'Amico, regional qualifier. And a lot of guys sprinkled in from like 138 to 165 that have a lot of RC experience under their belt.
Now, when Coach mentions a blood round is the round at states where if you win, you are a state place winner. If you lose, you go away with nothing. And the blood round at college level is the All-American round. And so that's the reason there's a lot of blood and a lot of tears shed in that round. So how many girls do you have out? I know you have had a lot of interest in there last year.
Right now, so last year we had about 4. This year we're up to 6/7 right now. I'd love it to be more, but we have a good group of girls, and they're battling hard. We have 3 freshman girls this year, which is awesome. One girl we got to wrestle. She chose between basketball and wrestling, and she picked wrestling. So I'm very excited for her potential as well. But
anytime we can steal them from basketball is a good time.
That would put a smile on my face.
Any names we should keep our eye on?
For my girls, so we have Maya Renke, was a state qualifier last year as a sophomore. She'll be a junior this year, and excited for her season. And we also have senior Olivia Henson, who was a state qualifier last year. She should be most likely 170-pound weight class this year. And then a couple of the freshmen are solid, but I'm not gonna throw their names out there just yet to make them earn a little bit.
Probably haven't had a week's practice.
Yeah, I don't want to put any pressure on them.
So, well, I'm going to put some on you. So Zach just got the head job 2 years ago, last year.
So last year was my first year. So yes.
And instantly, Century had some very nice placings in terms of the county tournament. They placed higher than they've done in years. They sent a lot of people to states. They got a lot of press and did well across the state. So here it is. What's your secret?
So you were touching on it earlier with being full-time at McDaniel, and you and I have had thousands of conversations, but being in the school is huge. And it also makes you feel good too, being able to see those athletes, interact with your athletes, see them every day from 7:30 to 2:20, and then go right to practice with them. So I wouldn't be in this spot if I wasn't in the building. But I mean, we have a very supportive administration, and we've changed principals, but both of them have been very supportive of our athletics. Very supportive athletic director. I have a excellent coaching staff that I couldn't do without. So it's kind of a perfect storm right now.
All right. Yeah, when you surround yourself with good people, good things happen. So tell me a little bit about your personal background with wrestling. How did you get into it? What has led you to become a coach? Because I have a little insight on this myself because I've known you for a while.
So my freshman year of high school, so 2011 in the fall, I was a football player, and all my friends were going out for this wrestling team in the winter. And I was like, I'm just going to get ready for baseball season, no problem. And I became so bored because all my friends were at practice and they were working out for the wrestling team. So I asked this guy named Coach John Lowe if I could join the wrestling team my freshman year, mid-season. It was right around Christmas time, and we had already done certs, and Coach Lowe said yes.
So I'm going to embarrass Zach a little bit. Zach started slow. He was new, but he was smart. He picked up things quickly. He was very coachable. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about Zach was he had instantly, you could tell, even as a high school kid, that he had a coach's mind. And there's a match that comes to mind immediately, and I know it comes to you too. We were in a battle across town with Westminster, and of course Westminster and Winters Mill both draw from the same zip codes. And so there are rivals automatically. These are kids that have known each other since elementary school, and there's no small amount of angst there when you're trying to eke out a win. And things were not going well from the Winters Mill side, and we needed to make a move, and something had to happen. And with wrestling, unlike some of the other sports where you can maybe put Irvin Magic Johnson, the point guard, as a center, and the Lakers come out with a win, you can't teach a 103-pounder to be a 155-pounder. But you can slide a little bit. You can bump someone up a weight class. You can hold people out here or there. You can work with styles. Little less margin of error there. And I remember coming to you for some advice on, hey, I got to make a move here, or I don't think we can pull out this win. Can you remember that day?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as you started talking about that, I think I'm probably the first wrestler to ever be like, oh yeah, I'm all right with that. Like we bounced the idea off each other, and we were like, let's do it. But I remember we bumped up our 82-pounder to 95, and our 95-pounder, me, up to 220, and I think we lost both matches, but we just needed to avoid enough bonus points to have Utz pin going up from 215 at heavy.
Well, it's the interesting thing about wrestling is it's an individual sport, yes, but when you're wrestling dual meets, it's a team sport. And sometimes the role isn't so much to get the win or even to get the pin, but maybe just not get beaten as bad as someone else might have, or maybe even as you might have earlier. So I remember, I said, which one of these guys can you do better against? And you thought, hey, I think I can avoid a pin better at 220.
And it was one of those things, it was like the overall team, because the wrestler that went 95 that night, I think I had a close match with them early, but we were thinking about all three matches. I'm sorry. We were thinking about all three matches, and I think our 95 and then myself, we each got majored. So we gave up 8 instead of the 12. And then we get a pin and we win by 1 or 2. So that was a pretty fun night.
Have you been in that position yet as a coach?
We made a couple moves last year to win a couple matches. Last year we went 14-10, and we won a lot of tight dual meets, and we lost a lot of tight dual meets as well. So that's all you can ask for. Like we were super competitive. I would have won a few more, but it was also, I think you could argue either way on about 4 or 5 of those final duels.
Coaching wrestling has a lot of aspects to it. You have to do the training, physical training. You have to practice lots of technique. You have to get in the kids' heads. And then, of course, there's a strategy of who goes where. And I know that when we had some of the successful teams, I would spend all day just poring over lineups to see if we bumped here or slid there, what would the other team do. Zach was actually also an assistant coach with Winters Mill for a while, and I remember another night when we were going against Westminster, and we had a couple of key people out of the lineup, and we were trying to figure out just how to make things happen, and things got kind of stressful. In the end, it worked out okay for the good guys, but do you ever find yourself under some stress?
Oh, absolutely. I think duels are so tight, whether it's, if you win a duel by 20 points, it could have been a one-match swing right there, right? I mean, not literally, but it could have been a couple things. And so, I think about it all. Every duel meet, I want to make sure we're best prepared. I absolutely agree with that. And I was giving my team yesterday the talk about how for duel meets, I'm going to kind of choose where they go and speak to them versus individual tournaments when we can do more wrestle-offs and kind of jockey for position better for the individual guys. But I learned from the best on that one.
Well, very kind. God knows I had a lot of little sleeping nights over some of the decisions we had to make. So give me a little scouting report on the county and maybe the state, if you could. Who's going to be the team to look at in terms of the guys and then even the gals, if you want to take a shot at that?
So in the county, South Carroll is still very, very good. Brian's done a great job when he was there. His first stint since he's returned, like South Carroll is locked and loaded again and should look to get back to North Point and do some damage. Manchester Valley's been super consistent and solid for the last 5 or 6 years now. So, I always look to those two at the top of the county until someone beats them. But I think the county is super competitive. Francis Scott Key has been going up and up in the last few years, and they have a lot of veteran wrestlers. They have great numbers this year.
When you look at some of the dual meets of last year and you go, okay, well, this is where this is going to happen, and it didn't happen that way. And then you look at the county tournament and you think, well, based on the dual meets, they're going to finish this way, and they didn't finish that way. It just goes to show you how loaded the county is and how balanced it can be on any given day.
Because we finished 5th in dual meet standings, but we finished 3rd at the county tournament in team score. So that right there just says how even it is and how on any given day it kind of changed a little bit from 3 to 6 or whatnot.
All right, I'm going to ask you a tough question. I'm going to do it to Davey as well. All right. State championship team, how should it be determined? Dual or tournament? Both? Both. So you think that wrestling should have 2 state championships?
Putting me on the spot with this, I've thought about this a lot, but I would love team score at the state tournament. And if we're going to stick with 4 state championships, if that's our number that we have to go with, I would love 2 tournament and 2 duels. Kind of like old
used
school.
To be. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The fan in me would love to see a 32-man bracket for the individual tournament, because we do 16-man brackets already for the guys.
Right.
And that would be no difference whatsoever, just putting it all on one sheet.
You may get your wish on that. I don't know if you've looked at the structure of the states this year, but it's for the second time in a row 3 days.
Yes.
With girls, guys, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A bouncing back and forth. And the girls bracket is still at 24.
I did see that.
So I would imagine when they practice expansion like that and they give it over several days, it kind of opens minds and opens the possibility to doing that.
And that's the fan in me that wants to see, like, hey, at 106, let's say we place top 8, to see the best 8 in the state. It creates more opportunities when you have 12 state placers, though, as well. I do understand that. Like, you place at states as a junior and you're coming back and you're just that much more excited for the season, or you lose a tight match in the blood round. So I could see it both ways, which is I think why the MPSSA has probably heavily considered everything for many years.
Of course, the girls tournament right now, because the dual numbers are still a little bit low, the tournament is the determiner for that. Last year, Queen Anne's won it with Francis Scott Key right up near the top. Is Carroll County going to have a championship girls team this year?
Carroll County has some of the best girl wrestling in the entire state. There's a lot of coaches that have advocated for the sport. I am not going to put any pressure on them, but I would love nothing more than Francis Scott Key to win the girls state tournament title. With 1 year under my belt over there, there's a lot of good coaches, a lot of good wrestlers, very awesome school community. So that would put the biggest smile on my face if Francis Scott Key could pull one off.
Zach Blessing schmoozing up to future guest Davey Blake, who'll be on in just a few minutes. So, Zach, any last little insights you have for the season? Are you a college fan at all? Do you watch the college mats?
I've followed the college a little bit, but just being immersed with our schedule right now and trying to get everyone down to weight and in shape and ready to go, I haven't followed much. I normally, about January, I turn it on and really start following the end of season duels and postseason.
I can relate to that. I started watching a little bit of some of the things that took place this year, like David Taylor, for example, surprising the world by taking that job at Oklahoma State. already there's a lot of action going there and a lot of athletes in the transfer portal. So I think eyes are going to be on Oklahoma State for a little bit. Of course, Penn State's a monster, and they always have been. Iowa's a monster and always have been. But anytime an area gets some new energy, some new life, it makes for a happy fan.
I do think I'm going to project Oklahoma State second place at the NCAAs this season. David Taylor is doing a wonderful job. If anyone is ever going to knock off Cale Sanderson, I feel like it's going to be his former wrestler and David Taylor. But it's fun to see the energy change from John Smith to David Taylor. Two great coaches, but very different.
Very different guys. Very different guys. Of course, John Smith, born and bred in Oklahoma. So, okay. Well, that's just about going to do it for us here for Sports Talk for the first section. This is Zach Blessing, head coach at Century High School Wrestling, both the men's and women's. And stay tuned. We're going to bring FSK coach Davey Blake in just a few minutes. I'm John Lowe. This is Sports Talk at Island Green.
Welcome to Island Green, Westminster. The Pub and Grill offers a variety of food in a family-friendly atmosphere. Live music, private suites, miniature golf. Learn more at islandgreenwestminster.com. Island Green, Westminster.
Don't miss CMSportsNet's fall season wrap-up show. Hi, I'm Pat Stoetzer. Join me for a special edition of Game On as we review the 2024 fall sports season in Carroll County. From boys and girls soccer teams fighting to win a state championship to the county football teams battling in the playoffs, we've got you covered. We'll recap other high school fall sports and bring you Carroll-linked sports action too. Plus, CMSportsNet will reveal our 2024 Players of the Year from the fall season. Don't miss CMSportsNet's fall season wrap-up show December 4th at 7 p.m.
I'm Danielle Inglesby, and I interned at the Community Media Center during my senior year at South Carroll High School. I was interested in the CMC because of the knowledge and experience that I would gain and to help narrow down my field for what I want to work in the future. During my internship, I learned how to operate graphics for New Blue for our sports productions and to edit various projects on Premiere. I recommend the Community Media Center for anyone interested in studio art because it definitely gave me an advantage for the future, and I learned a lot and had a ton of fun.
Skill, dedication, leadership. Just a few of the things it takes to be named CM Sportsnet's Athlete of the Week. Hi, I'm Pat Stoetzer. Each week, CM Sportsnet recognizes an outstanding player for their contribution to their sport. Meet some of Carroll County student athletes and join us as we celebrate their performance, impact, and outstanding accomplishments.
CM Sportsnet Athlete of the Week is brought to you by Barnes Bollinger Insurance and by Raising Cane's.
Okay, welcome back to Sports Talk at Island Green. We're live at the Island Green in Westminster, Maryland. I'm John Lowe, sitting in for Avery Newport today, and we are talking wrestling, which is really how it should be all the time. We just chatted with Century head coach Zach Blessing, and now we're going to talk to FSK coach Davey Blake. Davey and I also go way back. He wrestled for me at McDaniel College. Davey is one of the most celebrated wrestlers in the history of the state at all levels. A 4-time state finalist, 3-time state champion, only 2 high school losses. He went on to wrestle briefly at Division I App State in North Carolina before transferring to McDaniel. He also had to probably fight off his brother in the living room. His brother Mikey was a 2-time state champion. Yeah. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. We're also going to talk to him about being one of the most exciting female coaches in the state of Maryland. He is the coach of one of the best girls teams in the state. He's got a tough lineup. A lot of people coming back from last year and will be gunning for a state title there. And he also helps out with a talented guys team. So we're going to find out what's going on. So Davey, talk to me. How's the first week of the season been so far?
It's been excellent. It's one of those things where going in, you're never quite sure where people are going to be at. Our returners put in a lot of good time over the spring and summer, our optional training sessions, and then open mats in the fall. So we were able to hit the ground running. We were able to move a lot quicker through things the beginning of this season than we have been in the past. We're clocking in at like 62 kids on the roster right now. I believe we have like 18 girls, 40-some boys. We only lose, on the guys' side, we lost 2 starters, so we have a lot of returning talent. And then on the girls' side, we lost some firepower. We lost Kira, who's wrestling for you, right? She was a 2-time state place winner, finished 3rd and 4th, and Addie Crakes, who was a state finalist and finished 5th. But we still return 4 girls that have made the podium. So I think we're in a pretty good position to have a good season, and very, very pleased with the way things have started off.
Talk to me about Nate Taylor.
Nate Taylor is one of the most athletic kids that I've coached at any level. He's a workhorse. He loves to compete. He loves to grapple. He does a lot of jiu-jitsu, does a lot of Muay Thai. He's training MMA. He would like to transition into fighting when he graduates from high school. As far as wrestling is concerned, he didn't have a whole lot of experience coming through us from the junior leagues, but he did have a good base. And then what we try to do is, we don't really have a system that we do. What I try to do as a coach is what are you good at? How can we expand what you're good at? And Nate is one of those kids that is so athletic. He's smart. He's a good. He's a quick learner. So he was able to advance very, very quickly. And like I said, he went from qualifying for the states as a freshman and sophomore. As a sophomore, he was a round away from placing, I believe. And then last year, he made it to the state finals with he lost in the region to JoJo Gigliotti, the 2-time state champ from South Carroll. And then we saw him again in the state finals, in which he lost. And we figured that he was probably the 2nd best kid in the state at the weight, and he proved that to be true.
So what does it say about Carroll County when a guy like Nate places higher in the state than he does in the county tournament?
Well, we spoke to this earlier, right? It talks about the depth in the county. In my opinion, Carroll County is probably pound for pound one of the most talented counties in the state, always producing tough wrestlers. Very, very good feeder programs. I'm coaching my son now down at the Warriors, and I think that's the south part of the county that feeds South Carroll, Century, and Liberty, and there's 150 kids in that program. I know Manchester Valley has a huge Little League program, and I know there's 20-some kids at the FSK Junior Eagles program. Matt Rat's here in Westminster that feeds Westminster, and Winters Mill also has a lot of kids. When you have good feeders, the high school teams usually work out okay.
So let's talk about feeders, because that's something that you should know a lot about. Davey's dad, Artie Blake, passed away just this past year, but in a number of halls of fame, including the McDaniel and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, recently inducted posthumously. And Artie Blake is famous for creating some of the strongest feeders that the state has ever seen. In a county where there's only one high school, Kent County, where you graduated, Kent County had a run of 4 or 5 years where they were always at the top 4, and they came out on top several times. Talk to me about what you learned from your dad in terms of how to create a great feeder program.
Well, you got to be available, right? You got to have coaches that are willing to put in the time and look for the opportunity for you to succeed. You have to be able to, in a smaller county like we were, I mean, we're the smallest county, one high school, we were able to, look for other areas to go. So we joined forces with the Smyrna program, and Smyrna High School is a powerhouse in Delaware. He took me over to Cesar Rodney, who's another high school powerhouse in Delaware, to train a lot. He was from northern New Jersey, so we spent a lot of times, the way that he saw it is that we could either come 2 hours over the bridge and wrestle somewhere in Maryland, or he could take his group of kids and we could go up to the Lehigh Valley where he was from and wrestle that junior league cycle growing up, and it certainly paid dividends. I think what it was, like 22 state champions in 2 different states were his junior league kids, and that doesn't count the number of kids who placed multiple times. He did things for us that were above and beyond. Well, he built a wrestling room in my backyard, which made it easily accessible to train a couple of times a day, and we were able to bring people in from all over the place. It was very, very, very helpful. But he was just good at looking for those opportunities for us to not just be coached by him, but be coached by other coaches, to learn from others, and to kind of expand our wrestling base and put us in good training situations, and that carried through to the high school. So.
Expansion and learning from others is something that I think whenever I go to one of those National Hall of Fame dinners, and of course you spoke recently at the induction ceremony in the Maryland chapter. We hear it again and again and again. Dads, coaches, whoever, willing to take their kids wherever they need to go to compete, to go to clinics, to learn. The number of people that have, I had a wrestling mat in my barn. People that build barns so that the teams can work out. That type of dedication to say, whatever you need, I'll do. How do you do that as a coach?
Well, you got to care, first of all, right? And it's something, I love the sport of wrestling. I've been doing it since I was 4 years old. My uncle, my dad's brother, was a two-time New Jersey state champion. He was an excellent wrestler. He was he's in the McDaniel Athletic Hall of Fame for the three sports, including wrestling. You gotta take your ego out of it. There's a lot of things. You gotta understand that a good way to live your life, I think, is to live your life in service, right? Is what can I do for other people? And if you do for other people, usually good things happen for you too. And I think the more you say, what can I give? What can I do for somebody else? How can I help you get better? That's gonna surround you with people that, one, want to get better, and it teaches you how to work with a bunch of different people, learn their strengths, learn their weaknesses, where can we get better? As long as you kind of keep that in mind, like you live to serve, I think things kind of work out. And I think my father was excellent at doing that, and I try to take all the good things that he did and apply that, and then the things that I did not like about it, I try to eliminate.
Totally agree. One of the things that I really love about wrestling is you'll get into a room and you see guys with, chewed up ears and bad hips and gnarled fingers and chipped teeth, and you think, who are these jerks? They must be just, brawling and fighting all the time. And then you get them talking, and they actually get deeply emotional about giving back to the sport, helping other people, being there. I remember when I was in college, I used to take kids from St. Michael's, little elementary school kids, drive them across state lines to go to some tournament. I remember one time we actually slept on a mat in Virginia to wrestle the Virginia Open the next day. I don't even know if any of those guys competed in high school. I don't know if I saw them again. But to give them something that I couldn't have had, my dad could only take me. I didn't have a bunch of teammates going with me. That's the kind of thing that I think makes wrestling so very special, is that culture of giving back. So in that spirit, let me thank you for giving Kira, one of his top athletes, Kira Cooper, is now wrestling for me at McDaniel. She's a freshman there, tough athlete, and I'm looking at a couple of other of his athletes. Talk to me as a coach who has had great success now at the state level. Your team just about won a state title last year. You were in the running, all the way. And you've got athletes that did very well. How do you help them with the next stage? Because now with colleges booming, like this one, all over the place, how can you get them out there? How can you show them even more in terms of what the possibilities are?
Well, first of all, you got to express that it is the fastest growing sport at the high school level, at the college level. Girls have never really been provided that opportunity for wrestling, just girls, right? So we've always had girls in wrestling. I started wrestling, I think, in 1984, 1985. There were always girls, but they wrestled the guys. And when you look at sports like karate or judo or jiu-jitsu, right, there's always been a female competition, right? The judo's been a part of the Olympics for how long?
Yeah, a long
right?
time.
There's always been a spot for them to compete. Women's boxing, there's always been a spot for them to compete. For wrestling, it hasn't been like that. And actually, you are kind of who inspired me to. When I resigned from coaching at McDaniel, I had no intent of coaching again. I was going to ref. That way, I could still go to the big events, be involved in some of the wrestling,
right.
Go be a fan, that type of thing. And then when Nathan Perry, who finished third for FSK a couple years ago, he asked me to start working out with him. So I started 1 or 2 days a week in the spring, and then that carried over to the summer, and then to the fall, and then next thing you know, I'm in the room 4 or 5 times, a week, and then we had this opportunity after COVID to start a women's program, and we started with 4 girls, right? And they did an excellent job, and 3 of the 4 are still here. The next year we had 11. Last year we had I think around 18, 20, and this year we're right around 18 and 20 again. So it's just, once again, exposing them to the sport, encouraging them to not just be coached by me or to, how many times do we bring girls over to the Winter's Mill room to work out with them, try to give them opportunities to go to different camps and clinics and be seen and be heard from other coaches in other areas, and get them excited about the sport. One of the things that you taught me when I first took over at McDaniel, you said, I asked you for some advice, and you said you got to make it bigger than it is, right? Make them believe that it's bigger than it is. And wrestling is the world's oldest sport. I think, they've caveman drawing 7,000 years ago. So you're talking there was 10,000 years ago, there were people on this earth doing what we're doing today. And there's something to be said about that. And the fact that there's now a spot for the ladies to do this and to kind of express themselves in this art form, I think is awesome. And I feel my duty is to expose them, to give them an opportunity to reach their potential. There's nothing, no other sport that's going to mimic the ups and downs in life, and the work ethic, the discipline, the ups and downs of a wrestling season, the going to school when it's dark, the getting home when it's dark, it's cold, it's wet, it's miserable. But there's not a team on any campus that's going to work harder than a wrestling program. And the fact that we can have 18 to 20 girls stick around for multiple seasons now and put themselves through that, and then want to do it in the spring on the free time, want to do it in the summer, want to go to camps, want to go to clinics. I mean, that says something. You provide the opportunity. If you build it, they will come.
Creating fans. So you're a little more well-versed in the whole freestyle world. I've actually run into a number of people that were surprised to find out that college women's wrestling is freestyle. Some of them weren't necessarily happy about it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a lot easier because it's an emerging sport, right? It's a little bit easier to start it at the college level with what they're going to see internationally. And there's always a lot of talk in wrestling. They should switch the NCAA to freestyle. They should switch high school to freestyle. Well, that puts a lot of coaches and referees at a gigantic disadvantage. And because women's wrestling is just growing at that high school level, it's very hard to separate. Like, you would need 2 separate practices. You would need separate coaches. Right now, Coach Heisen and I we do them all together. Like, the girls wrestle on one side of the mat, boys wrestle on the other, and they never shall the 2 meet.
But they're doing the similar things.
Oh yeah, we teach everything the same. If you did that if high school wrestling switched to freestyle, it would be very, very difficult to then grow the sport.
Interestingly enough, New York just voted to do that. So
we'll see how that goes.
Those girls are going to have some quick advantage at the college level, but I don't know where they're going to find the refs. I don't know where they're going to find the coaches, because
the other piece of that is freestyle is not so much different than folk style, right? You got to be solid on your feet. You got to be able to defend attacks. But the same technique that wins when you're 5 years old is the same technique that wins Olympic championships, right? You shoot a high crotch, you shoot a single leg, you defend the shot, you go behind. The only thing that really changed is kind of the point scoring system and then some of the techniques on top. But when you talked about David Taylor earlier, you look at the bars and halves and the type of rides that he won. His 4 world titles and Olympic title doing was a lot of folk style technique. So there is a lot of things that can transition over.
Transferable skills. Only have a little bit of time left, but I hit you up with the same question I hit Zach with. We got to determine a state championship. Tournament?
I like the tournament. And the reason I like the tournament is because last year was the first year that they scored the girls' state tournament. And the excitement that builds in the building when they run the ticker across the bottom and you see the standings and you see, FSK's leading after the first day. We're going back and forth on the second day, and we're in the mix for that. And the fans that are able to follow along with that scoring, I think that's exciting. That's the way they do it at the NCAA level. I think internationally they don't do any dual meets. I know a lot of people think that dual meets is kind of the wave of the future, but I'm a big fan of the tournament scoring.
I used to be. I think I'm going to land where Zach is, maybe in between, a little bit of both. But that's going to pretty much do it for us tonight with Davey Blake. I want to thank him for coming. He's coach at Francis Scott Key. We're going to wish the Eagles all the luck in the world this year. Go get them at the county and at the state level. And then when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of Maryland sports. There's something going on tonight at 7 p.m. Har Bowl 3. You a Ravens fan? You a Chargers fan? You're Jim or John? So thanks, Davey Blake.
Thank you.
The Sports Talk here at Island Green.
Welcome to Island Green, Westminster. The Pub and Grill offers a variety of food in a family-friendly atmosphere. Live music, private suites, miniature golf. Learn more at islandgreenwestminster.com. Island Green Westminster.
Don't miss CM Sportsnet's fall season wrap-up show. Hi, I'm Pat Stoetzer. Join me for a special edition of Game On as we review the 2024 fall sports season in Carroll County. From boys and girls soccer teams fighting to win a state championship to the county football teams battling in the playoffs, we've got you covered. We'll recap other high school fall sports and bring you Carroll-linked sports action too. Plus, CM Sportsnet will reveal our 2024 Players of the Year from the fall season. Don't miss CM Sportsnet's fall season wrap-up show December 4th at 7 p.m.
I'm Danielle Inglesby, and I interned at the Community Media Center during my senior year at South Carroll High School. I was interested in the CMC because of the knowledge and experience that I would gain and to help narrow down my field for what I want to work in the future. During my internship, I learned how to operate graphics for New Blue for our sports productions and to edit various projects on Premiere. I recommend the Community Media Center for anyone interested in studio art because it definitely gave me an advantage for the future, and I learned a lot and had a ton of fun.
Skill, dedication, leadership. Just a few of the things it takes to be named CM Sportsnet's Athlete of the Week. Hi, I'm Pat Stoetzer. Each week, CM Sportsnet recognizes an outstanding player for their contribution to their sport. Meet some of Carroll County student athletes and join us as we celebrate their performance, impact, and outstanding accomplishments.
CM Sportsnet Athlete of the Week is brought to you by Barnes Bollinger Insurance and by Raising Cane's.
Welcome back to Sports Talk at Island Green. I'm guest host John Lowe in for Avery Newport. And in our last segment, Pat Stoetzer is back with us, and we're going to talk a little bit of Ravens football. Pat, something going on tonight, right?
Yeah, big game tonight. Monday Night Football. For your Ravens fan, it's the Ravens in Los Angeles take on the Chargers. It's also the third, I believe, it's the third time in the history of this family, the Harbaugh family, that the brothers coach against each other. John Harbaugh, longtime coach of the Ravens. Jim Harbaugh, back in the NFL, coaching the Chargers now in his first year. I was lucky enough actually to be at both of the first two. The first one I believe was a Thursday night, maybe Thanksgiving night game.
That might have been, yeah.
San Francisco at Baltimore. And then, you know what, now that I'm saying that might have been the second one. Anyway, one of them was a Super Bowl. I know that because I was there in New Orleans, lucky enough to be working that. Went there to cover the game.
You the reason the lights went out?
Well, I can't confirm or deny, but I was up in the upper level of the Superdome when that did happen. It was a little crazy. But John Harbaugh has beaten his brother Jim both times in their family history here. Fans of football know the Harbaugh family goes back a long way. Their father Jack was a long-time successful coach. As a coach, you know, when you're going against, and not that you're going against your brother, but interestingly enough, the two guys we just talked to, Zach Blessing and Davey Blake, came from your sort of, coaching tree, if I'll say. But when it is someone you know very well, in this case it's siblings, how hard is it, do you think, to put that aside and just get down to focusing on winning the game, winning the challenge?
Well, and interestingly, both Zach and Davey had very successful and competitive brothers in the same sport.
That's true, yeah.
So I would imagine you have to be able to take and compartmentalize, because you're going to have feelings, you're going to have things bubble up that are natural, things that probably go back to when they were like kids.
Yeah.
Why is he doing that again?
Right.
And
right.
you got to maintain that composure and say, nope, we're going to stay with our game plan. We're going to keep going this way. It can also sometimes be an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I know that everything from trash talk to how you promote things and certain moves that you make maybe can play into the emotional status of your rival sibling.
Right.
So yeah. You old enough to remember when Jim Harbaugh was a quarterback?
I sure do. I guess I'm old enough. Come on. Of course I'm old enough. I'm too old, to be honest with you. Yes, it was only a year or two, and coached the Ravens. Actually, I think when they got the new stadium, that's M&T Bank now, He was on that team that was that first season. I remember there being a ceremonial thing where he came over and gave like the game ball to John Unitas, who was still alive at the time. And so yeah, he has woven his way into Westminster. They used to train at McDaniel, of course,
Yes,
Western Maryland College.
Used
It
to
was
watch
called
them
back
all
in
the
the
time.
day. Yep. But when it comes down to it, the game itself, I mean, it's the game the Ravens probably have to have here to sort of keep pace in the division. If you're a fan of the Ravens, you know the Browns did the Ravens a bit of a favor by beating Pittsburgh on Thursday night in that snowy game in Cleveland. So Ravens win tonight gets them back to a half game behind the Steelers. They still have to play the Steelers in Baltimore in a few weeks to end of December. So, for Ravens fans, it's a big night tonight, and I think you're going to see, quarterback Lamar Jackson, MVP candidate. He's won it twice already. He performs well on Monday Night Football. I was actually watching the inside here at Allen Green during my break, and 6-0, I think, or 5-0 with no interceptions and like 20 touchdowns in the primetime game. So the stars come out for prime time. Now the Chargers are having a good season too. They're 7-4, 7-5, something like that. So two teams with similar records. I like the Ravens in the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's close, and it wouldn't stun me if the Chargers could get a win at home. I mean, they're playing very well right now.
I have to agree, though, in terms of the stars coming out. When you have someone like Lamar who wants the ball when times are tight, when things have to happen, those are the people that tend to do well when the lights are shining because they don't really see them. And I wonder, both of these guys have succeeded at that level. Jim, of course, won a national title with Michigan,
right.
And John has won a Super Bowl against his own brother. So these are coaches that can handle the spotlight. There's athletes that can handle the spotlight. How about the Chargers quarterback? Is he ready for prime time?
Justin Herbert, I think so. And again, you're attacking a defense that has not been great against the pass. So it's a team that maybe likes to run the ball with, again, it's also, we want to have all the time in the world to talk about this, but there's so many guys on the Chargers that are ex-Ravens.
Right.
There's also storylines there. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, was the OC for the Ravens. But to get back to your point, yeah, Justin Herbert, it could be a night where at the end of the day you say, maybe this was his coming out party in terms of being on the national stage. He's had some games like this before, but two good quarterbacks in this matchup and two good teams in a huge AFC clash.
And some potential redemption. Some guys that are playing for different teams,
Yep.
they want to show the old team, hey,
Yeah.
You should have kept me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Looking forward to it. Real quick before we wrap up, Maryland men's basketball got a big win over the weekend, beat Villanova. They were down 12 at the half, and I thought, they're going to lose one of these early non-conference games. Villanova's obviously a good program. Came back and had a great second half. The freshman Derek Queen hit a couple of free throws late, and the Terps got a 76-75 win over the Wildcats. So, a new class with Coach Kevin Lillard and just trying to Kevin Willard. I think I said that wrong. Trying to get the new recruits in, and Derek Queen is a highly touted freshman that Maryland got in the offseason. So early in the season, much like we talked about with wrestling, you're trying to find yourselves and gel and who you're going to be now. Trying to find your identity, I think, is something that coaches like to say a lot. So for fans of the Terps, a nice win there. And the women, of course, nationally ranked. They're always going to be bringing their A game as well, too. One of the girls that came in this year, if you remember the name, Sailor Poffenbarger, she's from Middletown, so she's not from Carroll County, but I got to get a chance to see one of her last high school games. They played Liberty in the state tournament a couple years ago, and Barry Green, the coach of Liberty, they knew the game plan. This Poffenbarger girl is really good. We're going to limit her. We got to go out her double team, triple team if we have to. Let somebody else beat us. Middletown won the game. Poffenbarger didn't have her best night, but she still had a triple double in the game, and they moved on in the state tournament. So it was fun to watch that. She went on to UConn, didn't fit there. She went to Arkansas for a while. Now NIL. She's the team that gave her offer, Maryland. She's back with the Terps and Coach Brendan Freese. So interesting to see how that goes along. But there's a lot of talent there on the women's side as well. And Poffenbarger's coming off the bench right now, so you're bringing in a USA national team level player off the bench. You got a pretty good program. So
Always cool to have the local folks in.
Yeah.
Maryland natives doing well.
Absolutely.
Certainly when Maryland was winning the national title, they had some local guys on those teams as well. So always exciting.
One last thing before we go, and I heard you guys talking. We're going to take it back a little bit to the high school. Things change all the time. Coaches come and go, kids come and go, but there are some of those constants in the county. I'm thinking specifically of wrestling. What's a guy like Bill Heisen mean to Carroll County wrestling? I heard Coach Blake talk about it. He's been there since long before you and I were in Carroll County, and that's saying something because we've been around a little while. The impact that a guy like Coach Bill Heisen can have on a community and a program, the way he has at Francis Scott Key for so long.
When a guy like Bill walks in the room, there's instant respect because he's seen it all, he's done it all. He's not going to be phased. He's not going to succumb to flavor of the month ideas or trends or fads. He's going to stick with the tried and true. It lends us stability. You know, a guy like Davey, who's high energy, can really balance off of Bill Heisen and know that he's going to get sage wisdom from a guy that's seen it all. So when you have people like that, they're literally iconic.
And the giving back part, I mean, he's given half of his life to this sport. You know, a Hall of Famer on every sense of the word, and cool to have guys like him around. And there have been others through the years as well, too, other sports, other programs, women, men's, girls, boys, all that. But I just made me think of Coach Heisen just because he's been around so long. Maybe almost gets underlooked a little bit, or overlooked, I should say, in terms of the impact he's had on the community.
And, you know, when things rise and fall, you know, teams are up sometimes or down sometimes, it's easy to forget that he was among the best. Those key teams were the best in the state.
Oh, yeah.
They were in the state finals all the time. They were having
packing the gym,
state champions and national All-Americans, and they have a long history of very good wrestling. And he doesn't let the crests and falls of the years bother him. He's gonna go with what works and what builds communities.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean to go back to high school in our last segment here. I know it's about Maryland and pro sports, but John, not bad for your maiden voyage tonight doing the hosting duties of the Island Green.
I've been told I have a face for radio.
Yeah, that makes two of us.
I must have a voice for TV.
Well, I'll let you send us home, but it's been fun doing it with you. I think Avery's coming back next week. I think there's one more show scheduled for Sports Talk Island Green fans, so look forward to that. But John, continued success, and hopefully things keep going well with women's wrestling. Yeah, anything coming up on the horizon here before winter break?
We are traveling to Randolph College in Lynchburg to see if we can get our first dual meet win.
All right.
And then we have the York Invitational and one more duel before calling quits for the calendar year, coming back in January. So hoping to get a few hallmarks, milestones covered before it's all over with.
And then really get things going in January in earnest. So it'll be fun, right?
Yeah, then we get going for serious.
All right, man. Go ahead and send us home here.
All right. Thanks a lot to Pat Stoetzer, and thanks for the opportunity to fill in for Avery Newport. I am John Lowe, signing off for Sports Talk, the Island Green, live for Central Maryland Sports.